All right, so you know about the new format that we're going to have on the GMAT, not the new format, but the number of questions and the total time available. So in case you have not known about it, there is another video you can check. I've explained what are the changes. Essentially, AWIR remains the same, but Quant has reduced to 31 questions, for which you now get 62 minutes, and then Verbal has reduced to 36 questions and it is 65 minutes, right? It's kind of funny because these are numbers that we have gotten used to. If you've been preparing for the GMAT, 75 minutes, 41 questions in Verbal, 75 minutes and 37 questions in Quant is what we are just so used to. Now, coming specifically to what I am making the video today, a lot of students have reached out and said, Arun, there are some questions we would like you to answer. There are certain strategies that we would like to discuss. So I've been collating all of these questions and I just wanted to give you an update. The first update that I have is, if you look at the first video, I've given a couple of hypotheses, but that is because the update came, the email came at 10 o'clock. I read it at 12 o'clock. The video was shot at 2 o'clock, right? Post that, GMAT has actually come out and said that we are doing this by reducing the experimental questions, right? So the other two conjectures, if I could use that word, stand, because GMAT, yes, wants to reduce it, make it more GRE like, make it like 60 minutes per verbal, 60 minutes for quant. And also the fact that, 60 minutes is more manageable than 75 minutes. But the actual reduction has happened in experimental questions. So this came out in a press release the next day. Quant today will have 3 experimental questions, right? Earlier it was 9. And I just made notes over here, so I'm just referring to my notes. And Verbal will have 6 experimental questions, right? So totally you're going to have 3 in Quant, 6 in Verbal. That's going to be the reduction in the total experimental questions. That's how really the 30 minutes have been reduced. As you might know, one question that a lot of students are asking is, should I reschedule my test, right? Here is another update. Before 11th April, you are allowed to have a free reschedule of the test, okay? But that's really not the problem, right? The problem is, should I reschedule? I'm just going to address it in 3 categories, okay? Category 1, your test date is, let's say, before the 16th. You are in the right momentum. You have practiced with enough GMAT prep tests, full length tests. You are in that zone. I do not want you to lose the momentum. Okay, so do not try to reschedule your test if you are in category A. Okay, this is not worth it, because you're in that momentum. The last thing you want is break that momentum. 16th April, you don't get a date. You get it, let's say 25th April, 30th April, and somewhere work comes into the your prep, and before you realize, you're going to do worse than if you had to take it in the next week. Second category, you probably have booked a date, somewhere you're thinking of taking a date in, let's say, April, or, you probably have booked it, let's say, 14th April, and you're like, you know what, I would have anyways probably pushed it to another week. Here is my deal. Let's look at the trade-off. Lower mental energy spent, okay, because obviously with 60 minutes you have an advantage, versus losing your momentum, right? If you think you have not really gained that cruising speed, that momentum, perhaps the extra mental energy you're going to get with the reduced format might help. So I would probably be tempted to tell you, maybe, yeah, go ahead and reschedule. And third, people who have not booked your date till now, do not worry. Just think that it's something better, right? So just assume that this is something better than what was earlier, and book your date in May, June, wherever, whatever date you would have otherwise booked, right? So do not worry at all. Don't panic. Don't think that people before 16th April are going to have any advantage, or people after 16th April are going to have any disadvantage. I think GMAC is too big a company. GMAT is a very popular test. They would not really differentiate between people who have taken it across 2 dates. One other question that I've had is, potentially the importance of IR is going to go up, because now that you have fewer, like you have only like 127 minutes for both the sections, probably people are going to look at your IR a little more carefully. In fact, this is something that when I attended the when we attended the GMAT conference. It's a conference that happens every year, and Quant Verbal is invited. So when we went to the conference, that was something that was told to us, that B schools are looking at our IR scores. So maybe you want to focus a little bit more on the IR part, right? Given that the overall test is kind of reduced. So that's another update. Yeah, so people are asking about the practice tests, right? GMAT has said that after April 30th, in fact, it has a very, is worded this way. It says no later than April 30th, the GMAT prep software, which by the way is also going through a renaming, is going to reflect the new test structure. Okay, so you're going to be getting that possibly in the next, couple of weeks, hopefully. But unfortunately, you really would not know before April 16th. Like, people who are taking the test on April 16th, probably you're not going to be able to take a full-length test where you will be able to practice it with 31 questions, 62 minutes, and 36 questions, 65 minutes. So what is the suggestion I have for people who are booking it between April 16th and April 30th? Let's assume that the GMAT prep software is available then. My suggestion is to go in with a 75-minute plan, but perhaps tweak your per section timing. Again, it's there in the earlier video that I have put up. So make sure that you kind of tweak it to ensure that you kind of make sure that you are able to handle it in 60 minutes. So your timing strategy has to be in place. With lower, reduced mental energy, I think, you're anyways going to benefit from taking the test. So a 75-minute test, more mental energy, 62 or 65 minutes, less mental energy. So I don't think you should really worry too much on that part. Again, any questions that you have, please let me know. I'll be more than glad to answer it, and let's keep in touch.